Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's the fat one, not me? I, 17F, and my sister, 21F, got into a random argument about her not wanting to leave my room. Her room was so messy she didn't have where to sit, so she crashed into my room. We talked and laughed, but after a time I really wanted to go back to my movie. I nicely asked her to leave, only for her to tell me I don't have any right to speak to her that way. I was very nice the first 6 times, yes I counted, when I asked her to leave, but she simply won't go. I started my movie again cause I wasn't really looking for a fight and she turned her phone to the max, looking at TikToks. That annoyed me and I told her to leave. Apparently I woke Thanos because she started to insult me, my room, my friends, basically everything that was related to me. That is the usual when she wants to fight with someone, but she said something about my grades, which are good but not the first in class, and I told her that she'll need to find better arguments for us. And she did. She then said, "That's why you're so alone because you're fat." Now, I'm aware I'm no model, I'm 5 feet 2 inches and 150, but trying to lose weight, and she's 5 feet 1 inch and 250. That comment really hurt me, and I told her that between the two of us, she's the one that should watch what she eats. Now she won't talk to me, saying I made her have depression. So, am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. She's being immature for real. It's your room in the first place, and you were being polite. Childish of her to start picking a fight with a dumb reason, moreover, insulting your life. She did it first and you just fought back. She has no right to give you the silent treatment. Not the a-hole. If your sister doesn't want to get her feelings hurt, she shouldn't act like an a-hole in the first place and respect your boundaries. Not the a-hole. Your sister is an adult who needs to grow up. And just because you have your feelings hurt does not mean that you have depression. That's ridiculous. Next story. Am I the a-hole if I don't help a relative because they wasted their money buying a house for $2.8 million? I, am 40, have a blended family and a cousin, am 34, on my step-parents' side who used to be close to me. However, due to him moving abroad and conflicts over an inheritance, we no longer talk these days. Recently, I've been receiving calls from various local and overseas relatives asking for financial help for my cousin. He has defaulted on his house payments and is more than 6 months behind on mortgage and loan repayments because his wife, native Chinese, convinced him to buy a house in Shanghai. He, ABC, by the way, had a good job in what should have been a stable company, but the virus fed them hard, and he has never recovered. Apparently, it seems he got laid off 8 months ago. When we were still talking, and he told me that he was going to buy this ludicrously expensive 2.8 million renminbi house, about $400,000, that was basically a concrete box. I told him he was insane and would regret it for many reasons, but particularly because he would never actually own the place due to Chinese laws. Now, 4 years later, he still owes nearly 2 million renminbi on his mortgage since his payments have only been covering the interest, and near an additional 1 million renminbi in loans for the decorations used to make that naked concrete box a place you can live in. I am a teacher in the US, and I don't earn enough money to own my own damn house, so how am I supposed to give someone else money to pay off theirs when I warned them this would come back to bite them hard? In the Chinese real estate market, you are always just one bad day or one conman away from losing 3 generations of savings. This house was so expensive, for him, that it took up 70% of his monthly income just to pay the interest on the mortgage. Now, I am being harassed for his stupidity to help him out of this hole because I let on that I had a decent savings account. It's not house money, but I want to buy a new car, something nice for once and not just new to me. Even my biological family is giving me grief about this. But I don't want to help. Will I be the a-hole if I don't help them? Edit. Thanks for the comments and reassurance. Asian family guilt is a crazy WMD on its own. Yeah, so they are trying to get everyone to donate to cousin. All of this is because one auntie overheard me talking about getting a new car and they all started circling like vultures, and the guilt has been raining for days. Top comments. Don't help them. Block them. You couldn't help even if you wanted to. Helping or not helping isn't even a question for you. Any money you may be able to scrape together to send them will be like it's going into a black hole. Not the a-hole. not the a-hole, and don't give them a penny. I'm Chinese and I'm familiar with these customs. These people are always looking for family handouts and won't stop if you don't nip this in the bud. I have family in China that I've never even met and they've badgered us for years for money. The final straw was when my dad flew some of them over to the US to attend my wedding and they had the nerve to ask him for $20,000 while living here under his roof as guests. Opie replies. My side of the family isn't Chinese, but it's the same. My dad lost contact with his sister after something like this, because her husband was gambling and she begged for money because we lived in America and weren't rich. We're not rich, the US is expensive compared to old country. What they see as having lots of money was us just getting by as kids. Not the a-hole. You warned him about the risks involved in buying such an expensive house, and he chose not to listen to your advice. It's not your responsibility to bail him out of a financial situation that he created for himself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for insisting we change our son's name? My wife, 24F, and I, 28M, had our first baby 5 months ago. We've been together for 6 years, married for 5. He is a beautiful little boy and we gave him the same first name as my wife's father, Keith. My wife grew up hating her father for cheating on her mother and abandoning the family. In the past decade, he worked tirelessly to improve their relationship. In her family, it's typically tradition for the first grandson and granddaughter to be named after their grandparents, and my wife was proud to name our son after her father. However, a few weeks ago, my wife and her father had a massive argument. Turns out, he is convinced that for some reason, I am going to cheat on my wife. He thinks we got married too young and I'll get bored of her now that she's devoting all her time to our son. He told my wife this after she opened up to him about how worried she was about being pregnant so soon after giving birth. We didn't plan the second pregnancy, and a few days after the argument my wife miscarried, and it was a painful moment for the both of us. Essentially, he kicked her while she was already down for no reason. I had a friendly relationship with him, but I know he wanted my wife to marry someone from her own background. Since the argument, my wife has not been calling our son by his name. She's using nicknames, calling him the baby, etc. She said that she needs time to get over the argument with her dad, but she also blames him for the miscarriage, which is something I don't think she'll get over. Father-in-law has made no attempts to apologize or reconcile. A month into my wife refusing to use our baby's name, I said that we needed to change it because it'll be better for my wife's mental health and our son's development. If this argument continues or is ever brought up again, she can't be too upset to use his name when he's old enough to actually know it. We've started the process now to change the name, and somehow it got back to father-in-law and he knows that I suggested it. He is infuriated. He said that I was supposed to be the level-headed one since my wife is postpartum and recovering from a miscarriage, and that I've just made their rift a million times worse since I've denied him the family tradition. My in-laws think I'm an a-hole for insisting on the name change, since now it'll be even harder for them to reconcile. I don't think I'm an a-hole, but my brother said it would be a good idea to get an unbiased opinion. Am I the a-hole? Edit: Keith is not the real name. Just used it for the post. Top comments. Not the a-hole, your father-in-law is acting like a massively entitled a-hole though. However, a few weeks ago, my wife and her father had a massive argument. Turns out, he is convinced that for some reason, I am going to cheat on my wife. He thinks we got married too young and I'll get bored of her now that she's devoting all her time to our son. Father-in-law is projecting his actions onto you. He told my wife this after she opened up to him about how worried she was about being pregnant so soon after giving birth. We didn't plan the second pregnancy, and a few days after the argument my wife miscarried, and it was a painful moment for the both of us. Essentially, he kicked her while she was already down for no reason. I had a friendly relationship with him, but I know he wanted my wife to marry someone from her own background. Since the argument, my wife has not been calling our son by his name. She said that she needs time to get over the argument with her dad, but she also blames him for the miscarriage, which is something I don't think she'll get over. Father-in-law has made no attempts to apologize or reconcile. Your wife needs therapy as soon as possible. Her sperm donor's actions were horrible and had to have negatively affected her ability to interact with her son. We've started the process now to change the name, and somehow it got back to father-in-law and he knows that I suggested it. He is infuriated. He said that I was supposed to be the level-headed one since my wife is postpartum and recovering from a miscarriage, and that I've just made their rift a million times worse since I've denied him the family tradition. Your father-in-law is making everything about him and not taking any responsibility for his part in the new estrangement. Opie replies, I don't think this has affected how my wife interacts with our son since she's being as affectionate as always with him. I'll suggest it though just in case it's something she feels she needs to. You clearly are the level-headed one. I'm absolutely shocked that your wife ever agreed to name the kid after her cheating dad in the first place. It doesn't sound like they had a good relationship ever. Not the a-hole. Opie replies. Since she was 16, he tried very hard to work on his relationship with her. He was actually amazing to her for the past few years, although he's never been a fan of me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I'm not a toy he can take out when he needs me and discard once I've served my purpose? I'm 22M, a twin, and I have a twin sister Ren. When Ren and I were 4, our mom died from liver cancer. She was 30. I know that would be difficult for Dad. Going from a happily married father of 2 to a widowed father of 2 with no family close enough, emotionally, for support would be a lot. But he was a better dad to my sister than to me, and that started before Mom died. It just stood out more after. My dad was an affectionate and caring father to Ren. She was his little girl and her cherished her. If she fell, he would pick her up, kiss her tears and clean her cuts. He was gentle and compassionate with her. When she was upset, she could sleep in bed with him. He'd snuggle with her on the couch. He'd pull her out of school sometimes and take her for father-daughter dates. When she was bullied, he was riding the school hard to deal with it, and he fought so hard for her. He went out of his way to make sure she was loved and supported. Growing up, I heard the words tough and strong a lot. I heard the word man a lot, and I was still so young. He never cuddled me or kissed away my tears or carried me. He never even said I love you to me. There was nothing gentle about him when it came to me. He was rougher, harsher. He expected me to be tough, to be a man, to be strong. If I had a nightmare, I was sent right back to bed. When I got bullied horrifically in high school, my dad didn't want to know. There were times Ren and I would both fall. We'd both be young too. And even if I was bleeding more, she was the kid he comforted. It was never me. Not if it was both of us falling, and not if it was just me. He never did father-son dates. The most interest he ever showed in me was when I could help him do guy chores, like moving stuff. I tried to approach this with him on a few different occasions, but I never got to finish. He always cut me off for one reason or another. It got to a point where I expected it if I tried. I moved in with my best friend's family after I finished high school, at home. Ren lived at home for 2 more years. Dad only called me when he wanted something. He did it again the other day, and I decided this crap had to end. I told him I'm not a toy he can take out when he needs me and then discard me once I've served my purpose. I told him I'm his son, not his helper. And I brought up how he never says he misses me, or says I love you. He never ever showed me love or affection, and I wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. Dad sent me an email in response. He emails better than he texts, saying I was being very harsh. He said I was never his little girl and boys are raised different. I replied I was never trying to be his little girl, but I was his little boy and he should have shown me love too. He responded again that I accused him of discarding me like a possession, which was unjustified. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. I swear some dads, some not all, have this toxic mindset of having to be loving and doting for their daughter, but will think it makes the son weak if he does the same for him. I don't get it. Like showing your child you love them isn't weak. You deserve better. Not the a-hole. Dad, after Mom died, you spent the rest of the years I was at home telling me, with words and actions, to be a man and not bother you. Now it's your turn. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my daughter on a shopping spree? Context: I 35, F, have 2 kids, one being 13, F, and the other 10, M. My husband just took my son on a boys' trip to Michigan and I just got promotion. My son had been wanting to go on the boys' trip for months, and my husband and I finally made the plans for it. Once they left, I told my daughter, let's go to the mall. She got all excited, which made me excited, and we hopped in the car. We went to Bath and Body Works and I got her a candle. And we went to American Eagle and she wanted a pair of jeans and earrings, so I got them for her. Then lastly, we got Starbucks after I took her to Ulta to get her a new mascara. I wanted to treat her since we couldn't go on a vacation. She was super happy and grateful. I wanted to use my promotion for good. Once the boys got home, my daughter was so excited to show her brother what she got. And he got so upset that she got all these cool things and he got nothing. My husband also said that I shouldn't get her all of these things and that it's not fair to my son. They had went on a week-long vacation. I don't want my family to pick sides. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. If your husband keeps this up, I would suggest that you use family funds, pack up your daughter, and go on a girls' trip for a week. Do not consult with your husband. Book a nice hotel someplace you and your daughter would enjoy, a city you think is interesting, a lake, the mountains, a beach. And go. Tell your husband he's absolutely welcome to buy your son some jeans in your absence. Not the a-hole, but your husband is. Not the a-hole. I take my daughter on shopping trips, mainly to our locale used clothing shop, because she cares about what she wears, and my son, they are same ages and sexes as your kids, couldn't care less. He barely cares if his clothes match, and I'm often telling him to turn his shirt the correct way. My daughter, for the past 3 years, has asked that her birthday present be a ladies' shopping spree when we visit my family across the country. My son complained that my daughter gets to do this, and I asked, "Did you want this to be your present?" He said no, but he did want a dessert that they sell at that mall. I told him I'd bring him home the dessert he likes, and he was thrilled that he is going to spend time with his uncle and cousins while we shop. That said, my daughter does get more spent on her for clothes, but will buy other things for my son when we wants them, within reason. Our kids have different interests and we try to make that as fair as possible in what we spend on them. Also, your son was having his own special experience, so it's nice your daughter has one as well. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.